Hey everybody, this is Dwight from quarterwaters.com, the site for social entrepreneurs, where social entrepreneurs come in the program, they talk about the impact they're making, and share helpful business tips along the way. Now, today we're doing something a little bit different. If you've been following us, you will realize that I interview for-profit social entrepreneurs. But today we have with us our first non-profit social entrepreneur, Sophia Sunwoo. Now, nearly 1 billion people go without clean drinking water. We're going to find out what Water Collective is doing and how you can help with their mission. Sophia, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. How was that? Do I sound professional? Like, I've been doing these interviews, like, and I'm trying so hard to just make it
You
sound.
sound really, you have a good voice for this.
Oh, thank you. Who knows? I might end up on the radio one day. But
Yeah.
Sophia, what is Water Collective?
So Water Collective is a different water organization. We're not your typical NGO. We were kind of formed from this idea of, how can we make a better NGO that's kind of adopting the innovations from all these different fields, design, business, tech, engineering, economy, all of that great stuff. How can we integrate that into NGO? And based on that idea, we realized, like, okay, there's all these different problems in the water world, and one thing that people aren't addressing is the fact that there's all these broken wells that need repair and maintenance. So why isn't there an outside party that's kind of looking at this problem, and instead of being another driller or an implementer, how can we help these existing drillers do their job better and increase their impact? So Water Collective is basically an organization that partners with water organizations, and we figure out how can we work with you guys to kind of make your water solutions more long-term, more sustainable, and increase your impact in your local community.
So I think, in a sense, you guys provide maintenance for the wells after they're established, after the community has them. Over a period of time, eventually they'll break down, and you guys figure out a way how to educate the community and keep it going.
Exactly. I mean, like how you need for your electricity or your plumbing, it always breaks down or something's broken at some point and you need someone to come in and fix it. What we do is we provide that service and those kind of toolkits for local communities to implement themselves. We look at things like entrepreneurs, micro enterprise, what are some kind of sustainable ways that we can incentivize local communities to maintain that themselves. So, there's so many organizations out there that think about the hardware of water. Now we need someone to implement the software.
All right. I mentioned 1 billion people. That's a lot of people that go without clean drinking water. What was your introduction to this? Why water?
Um, my introduction to this was so when I met my partner Josh, he has done a bunch of water projects in Vietnam, Africa, and it was just so disturbing to him how something that we take for granted every day is kind of a struggle there. And when you think about it, water isn't everything. It's in your food, in your iPod, your computer. Water was used to make every single sustainable and long-term business in this country and in the world. And I don't think people realize that, and the fact that a lot of other countries are struggling to get it, and we are actually losing water right now, and water crisis is pending for the first world as well. And if you really just sit down and think about every single thing in your life, you'll realize that you won't have it unless you have water.
You know, a lot of people won't notice about me, but I'm willing to share this. I went to high school in Jamaica, not Jamaica, Queens, like everybody. Jamaica, Queens, no, like the actual island, Jamaica. And we're an island. We're surrounded by water. Even though it's salt water. But there were so many days where we would go without water. Like, we would go 4 days straight without clean water. Like, we'll turn on the faucet and all you hear is that's just the air pressure coming out. We would have to collect rainwater. And, being introduced to that at a young age, I think that really helped shape me for what I'm doing now. I think that plays a big role as to why I'm so interested in social entrepreneurship and trying to make the world a better place. So, can you speak a little bit more about the impact? You guys are fairly new. Am I correct?
Yep. Yeah, we only started last March. So we're fairly new, and our impact. So in February, we'll be going to Uganda to integrate our first pilot. We're partnered. Our water partner for this project is Drop in the Bucket. It's a great organization. They are one of these water organizations that we do look up to. They implement so many sustainable long-term systems for their water projects. They look after their water projects. So in in terms of that, in addition to implementing our add value to the project, we'll also be learning a great deal from it. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. A lot of like ups and downs, but it's been a great learning experience.
And we're going to get into the ups and downs. I want you
Yeah.
to share as much as possible with our viewers. One of the starting questions is, and I asked you this in the pre-interview, but why nonprofit? As I mentioned before, once we started this program, I interviewed social entrepreneurs that have created for-profit social enterprises and are able to generate revenue in a sustainable way. So why did you guys decide to go the nonprofit route?
Um, two things. I mean, the first thing is obviously the technical aspects of it. When people donate, they want to either get a tax deduction
Yeah,
or have feel like they're because when you do donate to a for-profit, let's say, there's always that stamina of like, well, I don't really know, and despite how transparent you are,
yeah.
like you're always gonna have that question. But obviously the technical aspects of it, but for a second aspect for me personally is that I like the challenge of it because there's so many nonprofits that are functioning as a so and so nonprofit, but we were kind of trying to reinvent it. Like, okay, the nonprofit space is a nonprofit space, and there are some um, bad connotations, good connotations with it. How can we turn those bad connotations into something new? Like, how can we, for example, nonprofits aren't really seen as an innovative space. How can we make it innovative? How can we challenge ourselves to kind of push the bar for this space? So yeah, those were kind of the reasons why we decided to go the nonprofit, right?
So you guys decided to take the challenge. But then here's another question. I went to a workshop. When was it? A couple of months ago here in New York. By the Social Innovator Club Collective. I'm sorry. Oops. I didn't mean to mess up that. But we're having a workshop on social enterprises, and they're talking about the for-profits and nonprofits. And somebody asked a question: Could it be that there are too many nonprofits out there? For instance, what you're doing now, couldn't you have partnered up with Charity Water, or isn't this something that, for instance, Charity Water, since they're one of the largest water nonprofits out there, couldn't this have been a department of Charity Water? Couldn't this be something that they could have done? Why go out and start another one?
Okay, so the first question, yes, I do think there are way too many nonprofits, and I do think that a lot of organizations, it takes a lot of bravery to kind of reevaluate, like, what is my unique value proposition? What am I offering to the space that, would not be amplified unless I existed? So in terms of Water Collective, what our add value is that organizations like Charity Water, they're such large organizations. They implement so many wells in a day that they sometimes will not have the funds or sometimes will not just have the manpower because they're focused on one value proposition. So sometimes it's just not financially sound or financially sensible to kind of split yourself in two. And when you split yourself in two, in term like the bad thing that'll come out of that is that you will do less, I guess, you'll be less efficient in both. So if you focus on one thing, you'll be more efficient. And a lot of water organizations, like Water for People, Water Aid, they're really fantastic at kind of looking at how can we
Yeah.
internally create long-term sustainable water projects. Well, how about all those, younger, smaller water organizations that are doing such great work, but they just don't have the funds or the manpower or the right people working for them where they could really, think about this community development aspect. And since there are so many water organizations out there, we do add value where we're this third party where, what, we'll fund ourselves. All we want to do is help you guys, kind of amplify your success, so it's So yeah, that's our ad value is that a lot of people are doing it internally because they have the funds and the resources to do it. But how about all those water organizations
That
that
don't.
don't necessarily have that?
All right. I'm glad that you agree with me that there are too many nonprofits, and I
Yeah.
liked what you said. That people really need a, I'm kind of paraphrasing what you said, but people really need to reevaluate and truly look and see if they're adding any true value to what their nonprofit is doing. That's something a lot of people, even for profits, have to do that too as well. Now, so you guys get started. I don't know, like talking to you, like you make it sound so easy, but I know that's not the case. I know there has been hurdles that you and your team had to get over. Bring us back to the beginning. How did you get started? Try to go into as many details and talk about some of the obstacles that you came across the way.
Oh man, we went through a lot of hurdles, especially as a water organization where there are so many existing water organizations and people just kind of don't get, what your difference is, or they kind of look past it. And if they don't get it, they like just won't tell you.
Yeah.
So it's been the first most challenging thing was definitely trying to figure out our position in the space. And I feel like it wasn't until a couple months ago that we really figured out, okay, this is where we're fitting into this like huge puzzle of water NGOs. And I think like the biggest struggle was like wanting to be at the end point in the first 2 months
Mm.
and not wanting to have that patience of waiting. And I feel like the best thing that came out of like this long kind of a soul searching journey was that after all of it, I feel like really happy about where we are right now. Even though like we didn't get there the first 2 months, I feel like we were better off for it.
All right.
Um, and there are so many struggles, about where do we start, where do we get our contacts, how do we talk to the right people, and um, there was a lot of struggle with that. We were, just like in these periods where there were just these long lulls because like we weren't in touch with the right people and whatnot. And I think our biggest remedy for that was honestly always going out and talking to people, always networking, even when we're tired and didn't want to do it. There's always someone that knew someone that could kind of help us out.
The reason why I'm getting excited now, I don't know why. No offense to anybody else that I interviewed on the program so far, but I keep coming back to this one interview I did, and whenever you get a chance, check it out. It's with Eduardo from Lonesome George and Company. And we had a portion. See, this is the third time I'm talking about it in another interview. We had a portion where we talked about celebrating the small wins. And you just talked about there were moments when you guys were just low. You felt like, nothing was happening. How did you get through that? How did you celebrate the small wins?
Um, just always like Josh and I feel like we're very positive people. So when it was negative, it was kind of like, okay, we'll get through it, we'll get through it. And once we did hit the positives, like we were just like so happy and so positive about what happened and kind of seeing it as a progression rather than we should have hit it. You know what I mean? It's more of an attitude thing. It's like you can't always set your bar so high that you're always expected to hit these benchmarks. You
Yeah.
have to see it as an achievement.
And you have to work gradually towards it. So,
Exactly.
who were some of the people that you were trying to get in touch with in the beginning? What field of people were you trying to introduce Water Collective to?
It was obviously water NGOs, but on top of that, it was more because the approach of Water Collective is that we're trying to be more multi-dimensional. We're trying to integrate people that are from different fields like design, business, economists, psychologists, sociologists, and it was more kind of talking to those type of people and getting their input on the add value of our organization in the space, how sustainable was our model. And through those conversations with those people, even though, at times it was, we had to reevaluate, it was for the better because, our infrastructure has been stronger in terms of accepting that criticism. And I think the best thing that we learned about the whole experience is that from the start, we were always saying that we want this organization to kind of mold itself to what the current innovation is. And I think because we had this open mind about where we wanted this organization to go, we were always building and editing ourselves. And because of that, I feel like our organization has been stronger. And I feel like that has been a weakness we've seen in a lot of other organizations, is that they're just not willing to open themselves to, okay, this was a bad idea, this was a failure,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think people are better off when they realize, you know what, your idea is great, but it could be better.
There we go. You mentioned something, the sustainability of your business structure. Can you talk about that? What are you guys implementing to become sustainable? Obviously, if you go to your website, check out the website, everybody. If you go to the website, you'll see the donation button. Is it just donations? Are you generating income any other way?
So, we're sustainable in various ways. Like our whole infrastructure itself, it's sustainable in the fact that we're not trying to be another water organization and drill, because there's so many drillers. We don't need to create another pollution to that space. So we're implementing sustainability by being an organization that kind of provides a service, and that service is very extensive. We have all these experts from various fields that when we do our research, it's digested by those experts and brainstormed so that the solution that we come out with is something that's very local, very sustainable, very long term for the community that's participating. So for the donations, we actually separate our donations into three panels. We separate them. We kind of give our donors our choice, because something that Josh, my partner, saw when he was working in the nonprofit space is that he was shocked by how many percentage of donations were taken for overhead. And
Yeah.
it's kind of shocking when you don't know about it. It's another thing when you're warned about it before you donate,
Yeah.
but it's another thing when it's kind of done, I guess, behind your back, let's say.
And that's what
So,
makes it so, well, I don't know, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's what makes it so difficult for nonprofits, because
that's
people get wary of that. Like, okay, is my money going to the mission, or is my money going to their overhead? Like, where
yeah,
exactly is my money going? So you
exactly.
give people the option, and you're talking about the three different structures. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when you go on our donate page, you're given the option of either donating to a water project, a community development project, or supporting our office. And once you, input your information and all that, you're actually given a choice of how you want your donation to be reported on. So you don't hear about all the stuff you don't want to hear about.
Yeah.
You choose, so let's say I chose community development project to donate to. You can choose if you either want to hear about the planning of the community development project, the progress that it's made economic, socially in the locale, or you want to hear all of it. So we kind of give people a choice on how they want their donation story to be formed as well.
Awesome, awesome. I don't want to leave anything out. This is what I always do. What else would you share with social entrepreneurs, and any other advice that you would give to somebody that wants to start a nonprofit? There are thousands, probably millions of other people that want to start a nonprofit. Other than the one thing that you mentioned earlier about, making sure that your nonprofit is adding value to whatever field you're going into, whatever advice can you give?
I think what we're seeing now is that people are getting a lot of donors are getting smarter about who they're donating to, and the mission of the organization. My biggest advice is that if you do come from the nonprofit space originally, and this is why you want to start a nonprofit, I would really consider either having advisors that come from non-nonprofit space. They don't know anything about nonprofits, and I feel like your biggest critics are going to be your biggest pushers. They're going to push you to create a model that really makes sense in the space right now. People are all connected technology-wise. Everyone is, so much smarter about researching something and realizing if it's something that works or something that's, it's been done before and we don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Feel like we're so progressive right now in so many fields, and therefore like nonprofits kind of have to wise up and get a designer, make your website pretty, get your advisors or get a business partner, someone that'll make your model more marketable, more sustainable, more financially sensible, all that kind of stuff. And I think another thing is that I see a lot of my friends kind of, when they are in the social entrepreneurial space, they kind of are so enveloped in their work and they kind of don't, they work long hours, they don't
Yeah.
take breaks and whatnot. And I think my biggest advice is that on top of taking those breaks, um, really network, because I feel like your best eureka moments and best ideas come from when you're not working at all and something just kind of comes to you or someone says something that kind of sparks something in your
Yeah.
brain. And I feel like Water Collective was kind of formed from that exact, in those moments where we weren't talking about Water Collective at all, but someone said something or something was some kind of thought came from watching TV. You know what I mean? It's those resting moments that you get your best ideas.
It happens through these little ripple effects. You got one little ripple, and it forms with another ripple, and these big ideas become. There we go, ripple effect. No pun intended for Water Collective.
Exactly.
I like that, Sophia. This has been great. Where would you like viewers to go? What's your website? Where can they find out more about what Water Collective is doing?
So our website is thewatercollective.org, and we're Water Collective on Twitter and Facebook. Check out our blog as well while you're on the website. Yeah, and follow us, friend us, all that stuff.
There we go. You heard it from herself. Sophia, we leaving anything else out?
I think that's everything.
There
Thank
we
you
go.
so much.
No problem. Thanks for coming on the program.
No problem.